into like a 4 hour podcast. Even though there's a lot of topics, but we'll see where it goes. If it ends up being in a situation where we have a lot to talk about, then we'll keep going. If not, then we'll cut it short. But anyways, we're
Okay.
live now. So welcome everybody. If you guys are watching this, it's Ty. Long time no see. It's been a while since I did a live stream. But today I'm joined with Andrew SO5. Is it SO5?
Yep, SO5. How's it going?
SO5. I just call him Andrew. Andrew makes well, actually, let me not tell you what Andrew does. I think if you guys watch my channel before or one of my live streams, you'll probably see me and Andrew do a podcast together. But Andrew, do a little quick refresh, please. What kind of content do you make?
Yeah, so I started off with gaming videos, a lot of Counter-Strike, competitive Counter-Strike videos, and then slowly kind of ventured into Star Wars content, trailers, just like editing your typical cinematic trailer stuff. And then in the past few years, I've transitioned to making animated content like short films based on Star Wars, Mass Effect, and kind of on a little bit of a hiatus right now, but I'm going to be continuing my Star Wars series. So
I've watched that. I came across Andrew's content some time ago, and it's really well made. He did a Mass Effect video recently. Great stuff, which kind of makes you think, if we can get like amateur. I don't want you to take that as a disrespect when I say amateur.
Mhm.
If
No,
we
you're
can
good.
get like amateurs to make like this kind of structured content, it makes me hopeful for what we can do, like with Prime, Netflix, when we actually put
Mhm.
a big budget behind it. So I'm actually looking forward to the Mass Effect TV show series. And I guess maybe before we even get into the conversation, we can talk about that
Oh
first.
yeah.
So we know it's being made by Amazon. We have some of the points on the creative directors involved in it. But what we do know is that it's going to be based as a. Sorry, was it based as a prequel or sequel? No. It was going to be based
Sequel. Sequel.
after
Yeah.
yes, after Mass Effect 3. Yes. Now people were, at least there was some people pushing back saying we should do a prequel, and the Sin for one would have been great. But personally, actually, this is fantastic. I think that from Mass Effect 3 to Mass Effect 4, there is a gap there, a gap in terms of knowledge, stories that needs to be told. And if this was to come out before Mass Effect 4, I think it'll give us a good foundation to jump off from to Mass Effect 4, because Mass Effect 4 is probably going to be based a couple of hundred years in the future. So tell me, what are your thoughts on that? Would you have preferred a prequel? Would you have preferred maybe a Mass Effect 4, sorry, Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3 MTV show?
Mhm.
Or are you happy with this idea of a sequel slash prequel to the Mass Effect 4 game?
So when I heard that they were going to go the sequel direction, I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a good idea because it'll feel very Mass Effect. You'll have all the alien races. You'll the post Reaper conflict. I know a lot of people want to know what happened after that, and it's a good way to bridge to the next game. I do think in terms of getting more fans on board, I think doing a prequel during the first Contact War would have been better. You can like ease people in, kind of get their solidify humanity's place in the galaxy, and kind of ease you into the alien races slowly. So you get the Turians. Maybe by the end of it, it would be like the Citadel. The humans go to the Citadel, then you finally see the Asari and all the other races. And I think that'll be a really good starting point. But I'm not opposed to the sequel because it's just going to feel more Mass Effect, and it's a good way to promote the game.
No, I 100% agree. There's so many boxes you can tick off from, because I think one of the things about Mass Effect is there's so much lore and history. Like you think about Mass Effect 1, what is the lore behind it, right? You have, well, humanity, had this war, First Contact War. That's number one. And we found the protein artifacts, which then allowed us to basically explore the galaxy. Like that in itself is a story. Like, how was everybody thinking? How was everybody reacting to the fact that, like, hey, we're not alone? You could make literally like a episode about how humanity deals or and wrestles with our thoughts.
Hmm.
You could even go further back to the Morning War with the Quarians, right?
That'd be cool.
You could go further back to when the Osiris first came up with the when they first encountered the Citadel, the Krogan rebellions. There's so much content that you
Yeah.
could push, and I'm quite happy that what we're actually going to get is not something that we actually already know, because we have the internet. We can search all these talking points up. We've played the games. We've seen the archives. What we're gonna get is new content, fresh new content that is telling us about, okay, Mass Effect 3 happened. This is what went down, and these are the after effects. And now we get to actually see how humanity, the Quarians, the Solarians, the Krogans, how all these groups interact with each other post Reaper War. And I made a video about it some time ago, and I said that's actually the most interesting question. Because Mass Effect does really well with these small stories, these small great stories. Ushers, hey, what's up? How you doing? Long time. Ushers was supposed to join us to talk. He's a bit busy, but
Okay.
if he still wants to come through, I'll send him the link whenever, and he can chime in. But yeah, no, I think we're in agreement. Ushers, we were just talking about how we're happy that Mass Effect the TV show is going down the sequel routes, where we get to find out exactly what's going on with all these characters before the actual game gets released. Any other? Oh, he says send the link.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I have a couple other thoughts. I think, you kind of already touched on this, but we already know what happened in the games, right? So I don't think telling that again in TV format is necessarily the best choice. It can definitely alienate people because it is a choice and consequence game, and people have their own perceptions of how their story should go. And of course, it is there's no right or wrong answer to the choices, but people have that bias towards what they like. So I think the safe approach is going to that sequel direction. Not quite as safe as going in a prequel route, but if you go too far in the past, you're basically turning it into the Expanse. So it wouldn't be as Mass Effect as you would in a sequel.
Yep, I agree. Okay, I just sent the link there. No, I completely agree. And I guess before Ushers comes in, he'll probably tell us what he thinks about the TV show. But now the question is, and this is actually very important, if we're doing the TV show and we have this, we're gonna have a foundation of what's happening. It's gonna mean that the TV show or Mass Effect 4 will have a canon ending, right? We know there's red, destruction. We know there's blue, synthesis. Sorry, not synthesis, control. And we know there's green, synthesis. I don't know how you can do a TV show with multiple different endings. You're going to have to probably pick one for you to have a consistent, good, or great story. So I'll put it to you now. Based on what you know about Mass Effect, what do you think would be the best way forward to tackle this problem of multiple different endings? Fire away.
So I think Destroy is probably the best ending budget-wise, because you don't have to incorporate the Reapers all too much. Maybe you can throw them in a flashback. But if you do Synthesis, Control, the Reapers are around. At least with Synthesis, they would be probably present. Control, you could argue that they leave the galaxy and go into dark space or something, because the Shepard AI can do whatever he wants. I just think logically rebuilding the galaxy, conflicts with maybe, mercenary groups like Bloodpack, Eclipse, and all that would make for a kind of a more small scale story where there would be like little skirmishes here and there. Now they could pull the Fallout show route, where you kind of allude to choices being canon, but you kind of leave it open-ended. But I feel like that'd be a lot harder to pull off with Mass Effect. People would pick apart everything and say, well, the genophage is either cured or it's not, and they can't really skirt around
People
that.
like you make YouTube videos
Yeah.
attacking the show. Like, what? This doesn't make sense. This is garbage. This is inconsistent. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I get you. Ushers, welcome. We're talking Mass Effect. But we don't want to know what you're playing. We don't want to know what you're up to.
Yo.
Let's just get right into it. The TV show.
Because you know what I'm playing, right?
Yeah, you play Mass
What
Effect. I know.
Exactly.
This fanboy over here. The TV show is going to be a sequel. It's going to be a sequel to Mass Effect 3. It's going to be a prequel to Mass Effect 4, which I think is a very interesting idea. I actually think I never thought about it, but I think it's the best idea personally from a lore perspective, because it grandfathers you from the TV show into Mass Effect 4. So you have these understandings going in. One of the things we can say about Mass Effect, the original Mass Effect game, is that there's all this history, there's all this baggage that we don't know about. And obviously, one of the joys about Mass Effect 1 is learning about the history, learning about what happened. But I think to actually get fans excited is to actually give them a foundation for them to pull from and then move forward into Mass Effect 4. The games can tell you a lot, but the TV show can at least anchor you to some extent. What do you think? Am I talking trash? Do you understand what I'm saying? Or do you think there's actually a better route? Is that better route? Hey, don't make Mass Effect at all TV show, or hey, let's do a prequel instead about Anderson, etc., etc. Let me know your thoughts.
So did they confirm like where the setting is gonna be? Like, I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, it's a sequel that's going to be based after Mass Effect 3, but before Mass Effect 4.
So it's post Shepard, like it's
Post
so
Shepard,
after.
yes, post Shepard. So the game is
Oh.
post. The game is completely post. The game is going to be post Mass Effect 3.
That I wouldn't go that direction. That's gonna be very divisive because of the fact that so many people like were so divided after the ending of Mass Effect 3. I would not take that direction, because you're gonna upset someone. Like you're gonna lose someone. Like and the thing is, you don't know who you're gonna lose. Like who's in the I don't want to say majority, but like you don't know who you're going to upset, and you don't know who you're gonna win over, depending upon whatever story you go with. And there's so many stories to go with. We don't have a canon ending. It's too complicated. I would not do that if I was them. I don't think that's a good idea.
So what would you do instead then?
I would go for something safe, like I heard you talking about Anderson, and he's a prequel. I mean, I read the novel, the one that is based basically between him and Saren. So yeah, like I would do something like that. Like I would not, because no one can, like, it's just a matter of like how well you tell that story. You're not gonna upset anyone. It's a pretty safe story with Anderson, and he's got a great backstory. In fact, you can go even before that, but I would still sort of like put Saren as his parallel, because he was also around during the First Contact War, but he was on the opposite side. So maybe you could tell that story, and you could tell it from his perspective and Saren's perspective, which we've never seen. Like even the novel doesn't touch on that. It touches way later when Anderson was almost made a Spectre. But I would do something like that that's much safer, and you don't have to worry about any connotations or anything to do with Shepard and how people feel about like the decisions they made, etc. That's a safer bet, in my opinion.
Okay. I have thoughts on that. But I'll go to you first, Andrew. We've heard Oshar's take on that. I personally disagree. For sure.
So, in general, I agree with Oshis that a prequel would be a safer route. You have more of a foundation to build off, less chance to make mistakes, and there's nothing you really need to canonize because it's already established lore. So it's definitely safer. less likely to divide hardcore fans, and probably bring in new fans easier. But I think at the end of the day, the next Mass Effect game is probably going to canonize an ending anyway. This show is just a way to make fans understand why they're going a certain route. Like, I'm willing to bet probably Destroy is the route they're going to go in the game. It would be very hard to canonize, or to not canonize, to have all three endings as plausible, selectable outcomes for the next game, because it would water down all of the choices. They would basically make it where, like, for example, synthesis, that green code that's on everybody, oh, now it's magically gone because after years of well, I guess I could still put the green skin on, but you get my point. Sometimes these choices are going to get watered down, or 200 years later, it doesn't matter. So I think the show is just kind of going to solidify a canon and go with that.
I'm gonna 100,000% agree with Andrew here. I see, Osher, I think what you're saying is, to not ruffle the feathers, to keep everyone happy. A TV show about Anderson or the prequels is fine, it's okay. I'll push back and say I'll push back and say this. We don't need to be beholden or to be held hostage to a group of individuals who are upset that a character that they like or something that they did in their own game isn't being replicated in the TV show. We didn't have to do that with the Witcher TV show, because remember, the Witcher is a multi-choice game, and the books were the books. It was different from the books, and to be forever, like, castrated is probably the wrong word, to be forever held bound to just a segment of your fan base that is upset. It just doesn't sit well with me. When we can move forward, we should always be moving forward. And I think what I like about Andrew's idea here is that the TV show, the game is happening, and the game will have a sequel. So they are going to canonize something already. The question is, okay, we're going to do this, but let's be effective in the way we execute it. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the TV show about the execution as well. I think that's the best way to actually go forward. Like, I never thought about it, but that is probably the best way to go forward. Will someone be angry? Yeah, sure. But again, like, one person can be angry, one person can be upset. But does the franchise need to move forward? And the answer is yes. The franchise needs to move forward. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I just have one question for you. So okay, cool. Let's go with that. Let's go with, okay, we're moving forward. And Andrew said something that was, I think, very important about the fact that, like, well, the other two endings don't seem very plausible, but let's say, right, because this has happened, let's say for some reason whoever is the person that's in charge goes for the least plausible option that there is, synthesis, and that's the show they make. So now I'm asking you, because, like, I get you being comfortable with the destruction ending because that's the ending that you chose, and that's the ending that you went with. Now a person goes with the synthesis ending and says, okay, cool, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the synthesis storyline. How excited are you for that show?
I'm very excited.
Right.
No, because
okay.
I made a video about this. There is
okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I can be excited about it, because first of all, it's probably going to be red. We all probably understand that, right? It's probably going to be Destroy. I think Andrew said that. I agree with that. I think
saying
you would even agree with that too.
No, I'm saying they go, like, because now again, like, let's assume they don't take your option, the option that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, they go for the green option.
They go for the green, which nobody, like, almost everyone I've spoken to thinks that's the most irrational one. They go for that one. Are you still, honest opinion, they say, are you still excited for that show?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
It could still be a good
Oh,
show.
all right. Then I concede. Like then I'll be like, okay, cool.
But,
Then,
but the
then
reason why Synthesis can still be a good show is because Synthesis does literally nothing. It doesn't do anything that is like even tangible. You could still write a good story with Synthesis. Everyone is surviving. The Reapers are all happy, dandy, and everyone's cool with each other. Not really, because my issue with Synthesis is that from a fundamental level, I don't hate you because your genotype is different from mine. I hate you because you're different from me. You look different, right? Human beings fight each other over religion, over color, over different aspects of culture, right? So just because Synthesis says we have the same DNA now, but you still look like a Geth, like a Krogan, like a human. You still have characteristics that I don't like. So you can still create a war. In fact, that's my issue with Synthesis. It's supposed to fix this problem, but it fixes the organic versus synthetic problem. Yes, true. But because, like, for example, think about Neanderthals. If we somehow merged our DNAs and we became one species, cool. We're still gonna fight with them because human beings still fight each other at that same time. So Synthesis doesn't actually stop you from actually creating conflict within the Mass Effect universe. So I'm almost like dismissing it, like, yeah, it's just badly written and it doesn't make sense. In fact, from a logical point of view, conflict will always arise. Now, when you focus on control, well, control is easy as well. You could easily say, well, Shepard is now God, and Shepard realizes that, like, you know what, organics and whatever, they all need to kind of be together and just live, and they can create conflict. Conflict is healthy. It's only when the conflict will lead to absolute destruction is when God Shepard will intervene. So God Shepard goes all the way back to dark space and just chills and just lets us do our petty wars. Like, I don't think a god is concerned with like small conflicts. You know, oh, you know, you were hooking up with Liara and now you cheat on her with Tali. Like, he doesn't care about this kind of nonsense, right? He doesn't care about like all these small skirmishes. He's probably he's probably cool with that. It's only when you're about to do something that's going to lead to some crazy wipeout of a section of a galaxy. So even the blue, the control part, you can almost write that off as well. I was like, okay, fine, we can work with this. Destruction is the only one though where there's so much more content to pull from that's really interesting. And I think that's why they should go for Destruction. Not because I think it's the best end. I do think it's the best ending, but it's the ending that gives you the most varied situations, conflict, and endings. So that would be my take on it. Andrew, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you about Destruction. I think it has this it'll add more political intrigue, more conflict, because there will be this like power vacuum. I know the Citadel is technically still intact, but it's heavily damaged, and you don't know. I don't even know if the council was evacuated from the Citadel, but maybe I'm forgetting. But yeah, it's just like this huge power vacuum. So you have the sky's the limit for what conflicts can arise. Only thing about Synthesis, I do think it could be boring in the sense that the way the epilogue was written at the end of the game, Edie was talking like the whole world is this perfect utopia now and everyone's 100% accepting. And I actually kind of think that that's what the writers intended. Like, everyone's genetic code was completely rewritten, that they just think totally differently than they used to. Like, human nature, or I guess the alien races as a whole, just don't think, like, there's no prejudice anymore. That would be kind of boring. It would be like this like perfect show with no conflict. Everyone's like giving hugs and
shocker.
Yeah. Now they could easily write around that and say actually Edie was just being overly hopeful and she was wrong, and they could do whatever they want. But I agree, budget-wise and story-wise, Destroy's the best route.
Yeah, I think you're right about the Edie situation. I would just write that off as well, like just like you, and say like, well, she wasn't even be optimistic. It's just because, like, you know, everyone's just kind of reeling from this war with these Reapers, and because everyone has just finished the war and everyone's dead and struggling, everyone's happy. Everyone wants to help each other. Everyone wants to, you know, when war happens, you have no choice but to come together to be prosperous. Like after World War II, Europe came together and they did the European Union, and there was working together and being cool with each other because they realized like, yeah, we're kind of tired of war now. So I would say so. Yeah, Edie was saying all these things, and she was very optimistic because everyone was helping each other. But at some point, some Krogan decides or sees that, like, you know what, I kind of want another planet. I think we can take it. Like, let's just do it, and then there you go. That's how conflict starts. Ushers, I'll let you close off this point. Any pushback? Any thoughts on what me and Andrew were saying?
Yeah, I hear what you're both saying, right? In terms of like destroy being the best out of the three options. I'm saying avoid that whole thing because again, like the whole reason I made the whole example of like, what if the directors decide not to go for your ending, is that then if they don't go for what you like, they alienate an entire group of the fandom, regardless of, and we don't know which is the largest group. We don't know realistically who chose which ending. And we don't know like how many people will be sort of like, yeah, well, you know what, I would have preferred this instead of you guys going that direction. That's my one big dispute. The next thing is in terms of synthesis, Andrew is a little bit more on point in terms of what synthesis means. Synthesis basically means that, and I don't know if you're a Star Trek person, it's like being part of the Borg.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know the Borg.
Yes, so it's like being part of a collective and being part of the Borg. So you are assimilated into the Borg. It's very similar to how the Reapers work. So you can't have individual decisions or individual choices. You are now making choices as part of a collective. It literally is similar to how AI works or how we envision AI working. Is that they cannot be conflict because just like Legion, who's part of like the Geth, you are now part of another collective. And you are all sort of like focusing or moving towards a common goal. So there's not going to be any sort of conflict. That's what synthesis means. Is that first of all, it eliminates conflict between organics and synthetics. So there's no conflict there. So there's no room for a good story. Everyone is going to get along. Like you don't have a Krogan individuality. You're all part of the same thing. So that's how that doesn't work. So we can go into the other one, which again, like I have no dog in that fight either. What's the other one? It's the control ending. Even that there's a lot of things I can like point to that don't really work. The destroy ending I can go forever in terms of like why I don't think that works very well. But it would make for a better story because there'd be more conflict with the destroy ending. You would be able to create, but I don't think it's good for the universe.
Yo, the point you said about synthesis and everyone like being like the Gorg, that's like fake. Like where you getting this from? Like that's not how I.
That is go read up what synthesis means. Go read up what synthesis means. What's the breakdown of synthesis? You can ask an AI. Go read it up on the encyclopedia.
Yeah, I will.
That's what it means. It does. There's no individuality sustained. You become part of a collective.
I'll call
Which
you.
Really sounds dark. It sounds like a bad ending.
Nah, he's wrong. Don't mind him. He's talking.
Dude,
smack.
like, dude, I've been like, you were. This guy was calling me out. He's like, this game is 20 years old, and I'm like, yes, I'm still playing the 20-year-old game. So I think I have a good understanding of this because I've finished this game over 20 times. I'm talking about like all three games back to back. I've finished it over 20 times easily. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know how many thousands or tens of thousands of hours I've spent on Mass Effect since it came out in 2007, and I'm still playing it today. So this is something that I've got and I had so much time to marinate with these endings.
But you see, the synthesis. I mean, we probably can't get bogged down to it because I will look it up and prove you wrong.
Yeah, but, please go. But I don't think there's anything to prove wrong.
Merges. It creates a new life form, but that's how it deals with the organic and that's how it deals with the organic and synthetic problem. It creates a new life form. It merges them in the same DNA. That doesn't mean they all think the same. Because me and you have the same DNA. Me and you are life forms or organics. We don't think the same. I mean, right now.
Do synthetics think differently?
Unless you're saying that there is no individuality in synthesis, so which means
there isn't.
Wait, so you mean so wait, so Liara? Wait, have you guys seen Pluribus?
I have not.
No,
I mean,
heard
so
it's
are you
actually
saying
not.
like Liara is now Tali and Tali is now Rex?
I'm telling you, that's exactly what I'm
That's not
saying
what
to
it
you.
is, bro.
Okay, go look it up. Go
Yeah, I'm
look
looking it up right
so
now.
how do you think the Reapers work?
But these are not Reapers.
Okay, so how do you think you're doing this to the Catalyst?
No, because the Geth are all a collective. They're
Okay,
my
cool.
collective. And then
Based on what?
Legion,
Based
and
on
then,
what? Synthetics, right?
No, because they're robots.
Yes, they're synthetics.
Yes.
So they're based on, why do they call the synthetics
No,
the old
but wait,
machines?
wait. Why is it that Edie has things for herself? She says, "I am alive." She thinks for herself. Why is it that because Legion and Edie are not the same? They both think separately.
Yeah, you think she'd say we, right?
Okay, but like, is Edie part of a collective? Is she connected to a collective machinery, which is the way that synthesis works? Because you're synthesizing, you're combining a whole bunch of things. Like, everybody's green at the end because everybody is combined and they've become almost the same thing. Edie is not connected.
No, it's a new life form.
Okay.
It's a new
Well,
life form.
okay, so now, and again, you'll never be able to explain this because it's implausible.
I'm
So
explaining
how
it
does
right
this?
now.
Yeah, because like, how does this life form project? How does it even scientifically? How do you see this working, Ty? Like, how
No,
how
it
do you
just
combine?
changed the DNA. That's what
How?
it is. Made
No, like, okay, so how do you
it's
combine?
magic? Mass Effect
Okay,
magic.
let me ask you a question. Okay,
Bioware
let's-
magic.
Okay, bio magic, right? So it's a machine. It's your toaster.
Mhm.
It's your PlayStation. It's your Xbox. Your computer. Now being combined with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like that's like something like my PlayStation, things like my PC or my toaster. They don't. They're different.
Yeah, but like, your PlayStation doesn't think.
You're
Ty,
Rachie.
but like
What's
now,
up? We're talking. Rachel, we're talking Mass Effect, and we're talking about the.
But anyways, like,
potential
we're
future.
gonna, yeah.
But Ushers
So-
came with some. He came with some some interesting points. I never knew a Mass Effect fan could be so wrong about the endings.
No, I'm not wrong. I know for a fact that, like, I'm right. I just don't think you have a good understanding of what this whatchamacallit, this synthesis, or how the whole synthesis thing works. And I'll say this, Ty, like, I would respect your opinion more, right? And I would
If you
listen to
played
what
Mass
you're saying
Effect 1, yes,
if you
yes, yes.
actually played Mass Effect 1. So you're
Look,
a little
I just-
bit
oh,
underqualified.
Wait, hold on, wait.
You're a little bit
Hold on.
underqualified
Wait,
to be
close this
arguing
off, right?
with
I
me.
asked-
You gotta
you
play
told me
Mass
to ask-
Effect 1.
I know I haven't. I'm a bit of a fraud. Here's the thing, I've watched every video to the T, but just playing, I was like, nah, man, this thing looks too old to play. But wait, before we did this, I asked the AI, like you said, the AI, the EDs. I asked them, what does synthesis mean in Mass Effect? And it says, in the ending of Mass Effect 3, synthesis is one of the final choices offered by the Catalyst. It represents a solution where all organic and all synthetic life merge into a new hybrid form of existence. It says organic beings gain synthetic traits like enhanced durability, shared data, and technological integration. Synthetic beings gain organic traits like empathy, emotional understanding, and biological like consciousness. The distinction between organics and synthetics disappears across the entire galaxy, right? Now, identity says, okay, do they all think the same? And the AI said, no, in the synthesis ending of Mass Effect 3, everyone does not become a hive mind or start thinking the same. Individual minds still exist. People keep their own personalities, memories, and identities. Species like humans, Taurians, and Osiris still appear to act as individuals. Synthetic beings such as the Geth and organics now can understand each other more naturally. So this is basically it. In synthesis, everyone becomes a hybrid organic synthetic being, but individual minds and free will still exist. This is my understanding of the ending as well. Andrew, is this your understanding of the ending? And Rachie, is this your understanding of the ending? What does synthesis mean in Mass Effect 3?
I would say yeah. I would say it's pitched like it's a utopia, but I don't know if it goes as far as it being a hive mind. And plus, Edie does say "I" a million times in the, because if Edie's getting merged to be a collective, then everybody would be, including Edie. So she's saying I. Legion says we a lot. So I feel like that would make the most sense, just to be just a
To
individual
even
mind.
buffer your points in the ending, Edie and Joker are like together, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like if everyone has the same hive mind, she doesn't need to be with Joker. She could be with anybody else. It will still be the same person. That's why, like, I don't know if you guys watch Pluribus. Something similar happens where like everyone has the same mind, but then at that point, it doesn't matter if like your daughter, your father, your sister, your uncle, it's all the same person. So when somebody actually talks to somebody else, like if you talk to, like, let's say your girlfriend, but your girlfriend is also your brother, it's also your cousin, it's also like it's the same person. So the hive mind doesn't actually work. A hive mind would never have this emotional connection because they're all one being, right? But when you see them all hanging out together and treat each other like like brothers, fathers, or friends, that means by default everyone has an individual personality. Reggie says, how much Mass Effect can perfection have equal Miranda? My calculations are right. We have Reggie here on the Guna side of this. But listen, let's move on to this. Probably won't get to all the games because there's a lot to talk about. But Ushers, the game is happening. Forget about the story, or we can talk about the story as well, actually, like what could they do for Mass Effect 4. But before the story side of things, I want to talk to you about the gameplay of Mass Effect. Mass Effect 3 came out, when was it? 20... Oh, so when did Mass Effect 3 drop again?
Mass Effect 3 came out in 2011.
2011.
2012, yeah. It was finished in 2011, but I think the game came out January 2012.
Okay, so it's quite old. You could say it's probably 15 years old now or so. Are you of the opinion that Mass Effect's gameplay must evolve, change for it to for it to appeal even to the Mass Effect fans of 2026 or the RPG fans of 2026? Do they need to incorporate new gameplay mechanics for RPGs, such as, maybe more lean towards more what Starfield did, maybe lean towards more Elden Ring did? Like, what do you envision for this title from a gameplay perspective that allows it to hold up in 2026?
Can I just ask you a question? What did Starfield do?
Starfield did a lot, though. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what that means.
like, what did it do though? Like, what did, like, just give me like your top three things?
I'll give you an
gameplay-wise.
example. Here's something I said. And I don't know if me and Andrew actually touched on this. I might have said this when I was speaking to Andrew. I don't know if he agreed or not. But if you took away the aesthetics of Starfield and you replaced it with Mass Effect aesthetics, right? That is Mass Effect 4. I say that in a sense of it has the shooting mechanics, right? It has the special abilities that you could do. It has the character developments. It has the side stories. And when you play Mass Effect 3, you have your hub, right, which is your ship, the Normandy. And you also have your hub in Starfield as well. I mean, it's not as big, but you can make it bigger, right? And then you have the modes where you can go to your galaxy map and start to maneuver to different planets and scan and do all these things. Like if you were trying to take that core gameplay element and modernize it and expand on it, it would be what Starfield is doing, basically. Mass Effect doesn't have any free flowing, fly your ship from here to there, and Starfield doesn't have it that either. It just has a loading screen. Yeah. So you have the same more or less features. Like, to me, Starfield is basically what Mass Effect 4 could have been if they did it right. And we know even that with Mass Effect Andromeda, that's what they were kind of looking at. They were looking at these elements of fly your own ship, do this, do that. Like, think about Mass Effect Andromeda. You land on a planet and you just drive. That's what you do in Starfield. You just land on a planet and you just drive to different places. So I would say Starfield is pretty much what Mass Effect 4 could have been. But
like, I'm just like, tell me, what is it like that you find in terms of mechanically that's great about Starfield. That like you're like, wow, I really enjoyed.
Well, to be clear, I'm not necessarily saying it should be like Starfield. I'm asking you, should it be like Starfield?
No, it shouldn't be like Starfield because I like mechanically they don't do much in Starfield. In like Starfield is if you've played Fallout 4, Starfield is Fallout 4, but like with the content just stretched out over like bigger maps. But there's from a and again like this is from a Bethesda RPG perspective. There's not a lot of new in Starfield. In fact, there's a lot of stuff that you find in games like Fallout 4 that's not in Starfield, like the immersion and just being able to play the story in any way that you want to.
But what do you think? What do you think Mass Effect 4 should entail? Like from a gameplay perspective, are you thinking it should just be Mass Effect 3 except better graphics?
I would again like I think for an RPG developer, if you're making a role-playing game, go Larian's route, dude. Like I would really go and look at a developer like Larian, what they did with Baldur's Gate 3, and say, how do I take that and translate it into a Mass Effect game? And that'd be the challenge for BioWare. I think that is the challenge for anyone that wants to develop. You start from and that's not an easy point to start from because those are some very intricate games. And say you want to translate that into an action role-playing game. Mm-hmm. That's the direction I would go. Any other direction, I think, is going to give you a watered-down experience.
See, I think that's a vague answer. So I will come back to you on that. I'm going to go to Andrew. But before I go to Andrew, Raichi says he's doing great. He woke up from a nap and saw Taye and knew it was going to be about Mass Effect. Raichi, you are 100%. If I go live, it's pretty much about Mass Effect. And I'm hoping to do a lot more. I'm hoping Andrew is willing to come back a lot and talk. Listen,
yeah,
Osiris Reborn is going to come out. Exodus is going to come out. Mass Effect is coming out. Like, there's a lot of sci-fi stuff coming out. So you guys will see a lot of Ushers and Andrew on the channel a lot more because there's a lot to talk about. But go back to Rachel's other comment. He says Andromeda's gameplay was already great. Sadly, no budget was allocated to the story and companions. So, Andrew, you've heard my take somewhat. You've heard Rachel's take about how Andromeda was great from a gameplay perspective, but no budget was allocated to the story and companions. You've heard Ushers' vague take on what they should do, which is kind of for the Larian route. What are your thoughts and what are your critiques on all three of our takes?
So I'm in agreement that I think they should take inspiration from Larian and Baldur's Gate. I think a lot of RPG fans, they buy the games for the choices and consequences, and obviously there are some as well that love the skills, upgrading your skill tree, equipping armor with different power levels and whatnot. But I really think the most important thing is the story and the choices and being able to experience a different game each time you play. And Baldur's Gate did a great job of doing that. It felt to me like a modernized version of what Mass Effect was doing. So ultimately, I don't think, like, look at turn-based, for example. A lot of people typically don't like turn-based. That's my assumption. And I've heard a lot of people say, I don't like turn-based, but I loved Baldur's Gate 3. So that kind of just shows right there that it's not the main draw. So gameplay, I think they should just kind of go back to their roots. I think Andromeda's gameplay was pretty good. But I don't know, something about it to me felt a little more detached. Like, I liked being able to manually wall hug. I liked, like in the old games. And it just felt kind of, I don't know, floaty. It just felt weird. I think Mass Effect 3 kind of felt more like I was in control of Shepard. I know it is mechanically an older game, though, but they could take that, and then don't do the open world again like Andromeda. I think that kind of waters things down, ruins the pacing of the game. So make it semi-open hubs, maybe some linear missions here and there. And that's what I would do.
No, sounds good. I think I actually agree with you from the open world element, and I agree with Ushers from the actual looking at Larian part. I think it's a bit vague because I kind of want to more like, for example, you talking about gameplay. I think Oshos as well, when he talks about Larian, he's looking at how the character creators work, for example, right? He's looking at the interactions with different characters, right? The emotional connection. He's looking at the romances of how Larian is doing it, which 100%, I think we can all agree they should look towards them for that. We could even, to some extent, say look at what you guys did in the past with Mass Effect 3. I was more looking for like a gameplay side of things as to like, you know, how do we evolve? And when Reichi says, hey, you know, Andromeda's gameplay was great, this is actually another example that I say that Mass Effect 4 is like Starfield. Like in Mass Effect Andromeda, that's what you did. You landed, you used your jetpack to just jump and go places and just fight people basically. So they're very, very similar. So I'll go back to you because Andrew, I believe he's saying that he wants something more closer to Mass Effect 3 as opposed to Mass Effect Andromeda, right?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I agree with Andrew. Like,
Okay.
what I would like, I'm not a fan. Like, look, Mass Effect Andromeda's gameplay was interesting. You know, it was modeled after Destiny, and it sort of kind of worked in certain situations. But the thing is, the cover mechanic is still state of the art today. If you can get a good cover mechanic in your game, it's still gonna be awesome. So what I would say is that if go back to the cover mechanic based game, but just modernize it. Use the sort of like I don't know which is the most recent game that released with cover mechanics to make a comparison, but like use the latest cover mechanics. Use some of the stuff from Andromeda. So combine what you had in Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda. So in other words, have the jetpack sort of gameplay, but have proper cover mechanic. I hate this thing of not being able, you know, like to mount to walls naturally like you could previously. You sort of like mount, but like it's not really a sticky type of mount. You have to press down, and it doesn't feel the same way as like when you like intentfully went into like cover. So cover mechanics still can work for you, but mix it up a little bit. Yeah, so gameplay, that's the thing with gameplay. You can always do different things, but like the cover mechanic is not outdated. It's still relevant. It's still a mechanic that works very well for your game if you program it right. And I don't think it was outdated when Andromeda came out. It's just they chose to go in a different direction.
Yeah, they went for the, you know what? Oh, everyone's doing open world, and you know we got to do this as well. Reichi says, because I mentioned to Reichi, because he said Western RPGs haven't been good over the past couple of years, and I mentioned, you know, Baldur's Gate, Cyberpunk, and then I asked him, is he looking forward to Osiris Reborn? And Reichi says, I'm in the dark about Osiris. I want to keep low expectations and wait for the big reveal at the showcase. All I know is what you said a month ago in the stream. And before we get to Osiris, from the gameplay point of view, I'll probably be a little bit more controversial with Mass Effect and say, get rid of the jetpacks. I don't like it. I really don't. Like, it's fun. It's... Oh, is Ashes gone? Yeah, I think he got kicked out. Yeah, okay. He'll be back. Yeah, he wants to argue, I'm sure. But I would say get rid of the jetpack. I'm not too crazy about it, to be honest with you. I think I like something that's a bit grounded, and one of the things I like about Osiris Reborn is this element of like, it's just grounded. Everyone's on the floor, and you know they're shooting each other, and you can go from cover to cover. It just feels more it feels more grounded. You know, I played Call of Duty and I enjoyed it, and then as soon as you gave me jetpacks, I just felt it took away from the actual core game. It made it a little bit different. So I would urge them to get rid of the jetpacks. I don't know how you feel about that, Andrew. Are you of the opinion?
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think it depends on the level design too. Like, are the maps, do they have good verticality, interesting places to explore where you can get a high ground advantage and I don't know, just make the game more dynamic? But at the same time, at the end of the day, jetpacks are jetpacks, and if you want a you know, a realistic take, I think the Expanse doing a good job with that. I like the low grav environments. I like all the shrapnel everywhere, floating in space. I think it is a kind of breath of fresh air, because a lot of RPGs are either really like high fantasy, over the top, save the entire universe from an evil god or something, and this story is going to be more, you know, I'm assuming here, like political intrigue, slower pace, and realistic combat.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to ask you a question. I want Rachie to answer as well. If you're still here, Rachie, and Oshus as well. He's back. Oshus, you're back. Oshus, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry about that. I got kicked out.
I'm gonna ask a question for all you guys to answer. So we'll go back towards the kind of Osha. So what I actually said when you left, when you got kicked out, was that I would actually get rid of the jetpacks. I don't think I was playing the Osiris Reborn trailer. I don't know where it's gone now. Let me just get that back on the screen. And there's just something really like attractive about walking around, being grounded, from a cover-based shooter. Like you can probably see what's on the screen right now. I think this is great.
Yeah.
I think this is what people want. And I think the jetpacks, unfortunately, they kind of changed the way the game is played. And the example I gave is when I was playing Call of Duty back in the days, Call of Duty 4, 3, whatever. And as soon as they allowed me to use the jetpacks, it really just changed the fundamentals of the game. It felt very, very different. So my question to you is, would you get rid of the jetpacks, or do you think it's actually a good feature to have?
I'm not attached to it. Like if you've got good third person cover shooter mechanics, I'm happy. Like you can, I'm happy if you have to do away with the jetpacks. It's not something that I would say, like, if you wanted to like make it a little bit, maybe on specific levels, you want to make it a little bit more dynamic, spice things up a little bit, you can add that. But I'm not attached to it in the sense that it needs to be as core to the gameplay as Andromeda. And again, with Andromeda, after a while, the whole jetpack thing became boring because it became repetitive. So the best thing I can say is that mix your gameplay up, have different sort of things that apply to different levels as well, but stick to cover shooters. I think cover shooter works for Mass Effect very well.
Now, here's the question, you guys. You got to be a bit more imaginative here. Or maybe your take is, I don't want to be imaginative, just stick to what I know. What additional things would you like to see in Mass Effect 4? Examples could be, for example, in Cyberpunk, you had the telephone system where you could message your companions and talk to them regularly and all that kind of stuff. Would you like to see situations where you can go to the bar and hang out and talk to characters and build more of a relationship with them? Do you want a situation where maybe there's mini games in the game, like in Horizon, like in Assassin's Creed, like in Cyberpunk? Do you want all these kind of features in, like maybe even some kind of space racing part of the game? Do you want new abilities, like the ability to slow motion, maybe to teleport? Like what additional features do you want in this Mass Effect 3 combat interaction situation? Andrew, I'll go to you first. And Rachie, please let us know your thoughts as well in the comment section.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is, I think it would be really cool. I know Starfield did it. I think Mass Effect could do it better, but that's just me being hopeful. I think space combat would be really cool. I mean, look how cool those cinematics are at the end of Mass Effect 3 with the fleets. It would be really cool if you could control one of those Alliance capital ships, or if you have like the equivalent of a Normandy, or even just like a fighter. That would be really cool. And then, depending on how well you perform in the battle, it affects the outcome. Maybe a planet gets completely destroyed. I don't know. Something bad happens and it affects your alliances. In terms of
so to be clear, you would like space combat.
Space combat, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool, perfect.
In terms of like mini games, I think those can kind of have that Ubisoft effect where it gets a little repetitive after a while. I don't want to go to an arcade machine and do one of those type of mini games, but I wouldn't mind if it's tied into the story in some way, like you were saying, like meet up with your companions and have more of an opportunity for dialogue and character development. I'm all for that, just as long as it's not repeatable fetch quests type stuff.
Okay, good points. Oshus, the player of Mass Effect, Baldur's Gate, the huge RPG fan you are, there has to be something from these games that you would want implemented in Mass Effect going forward. Let us know.
So in terms of like something new to Mass Effect,
Mhm.
so I'm more of like in terms of like what they could do better is like with all the tech we have, and we've spoken about this in terms of AI, is have more AI NPCs, like for instance your squad mates, because I would say don't try and add way too many new things like mini games and all that. Like you can still have that in a DLC like the Citadel, but like focus on what's core to BioWare, which is storytelling. And when we're talking about narrative and storytelling, make the world more dynamic, meaning don't have any one place that a person, if you go to the Citadel, everyone has dynamic what do they call these things, routines. So all the characters that you interact with dynamically. You go to the stores to buy your helix whatnot, and get your weapons. You're talking to a very you have a natural conversation with the salesperson. But especially your crew, the people on your ship, have all those crew members being more dynamic. You can have your relationships with your crewmates are dynamic past the point of you finishing the story. You can still go and hang out with Garrus and do things that are not pre-scripted, where you now end up with the same two responses from one of your main characters all the time. So I would say double up on that. Use AI where AI is useful, which is making all the interactions in the game more dynamic. Focus on that, and you will have, I would say, a lot of Mass Effect fans fealty.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll head on to Raichi. Raichi says, make the jetpack skill locked behind a class. Make exclusive missions and storylines for specific class. That's something I've never thought about. I don't know, what do you guys think about that? Making specific classes have specific missions.
I think it would certainly help with replayability. It just, would you get the most out of it? Like they would have to spread the missions kind of thin. If you have 7 classes, maybe it's only 2 or 3 missions per class. I know Mass Effect, the first 3 games did something like that, where there's like 1 mission for your backstory. But I don't know if it's enough to warrant the jetpack, because the maps would have to be designed around it. You know what I mean? So it would be a cool feature. It just wouldn't have enough content, I feel.
Cautious?
I don't really have an opinion. I think it could work. I think it just depends on how you implement it. But I'm not against it. I think that could be a good idea.
The next one Raichi says is faction backup. Let's say you help the STG or Battarian Reformist. Some missions are bigger scale and need backup, and a faction will send you special forces to team up to help you do a mission, like Kiare. Andrew, thoughts on this one?
I like this idea. I think it's kind of like the suicide mission, Mass Effect 2. You pick who's going to be the squad leader. I love that stuff. And depending on who you pick for these faction missions, it could make or break your alliance. It could get people killed. So I think that's a great way to make missions replayable right off the bat, and increase that choice consequence for sure.
No, I agree. Asha's thoughts?
Yeah, that goes hand in hand with my idea of implementing or correctly implementing AI and making the world more dynamic, because that's the whole point of Mass Effect. Is it's a narrative driven world, so you want the narratives to be dynamic. Kirihei coming in to save you last minute because he happens to be maybe in the same system as you, and of course you're the legendary shepherd and you saved his life. To me, that's, and you don't expect it, but the game has it programmed. That's mind-blowing programming if you can pull that stuff off.
Richie, I think we're all in agreement here. I think that's a really good point. the more interactions, the more dynamic events we can get, and having a faction come and support you and help you, if done correctly, I think will actually really add a lot to the game. I like this idea of massive scale combat. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Like where maybe we're playing a mission, but we have like a fleet, like a proper fleet, right? So Andrew, you were saying about how you want space missions, and I think that could be interesting as well, especially if they're gonna do something similar to Mass Effect 3, where you're on the ship and you can go from this place to that place. Having a space mission would be cool when you can you can take down enemies or whatever. But even just the idea of like having 20 ships beside you, taking down another 20 ships will make the game feel a lot more epic. Thoughts?
Ooh, I have an idea when you mentioned that. I think that's a really good idea, and I think a way to build off that is imagine, how in Mass Effect 3 you build up war assets, and you don't really get to see your war assets even at the end of the game. It's not really like right up front and center. I think it would be cool if you could build war assets like a fleet, right? And depending on your choices, you might have a bigger or smaller fleet. And let's say later on in the game, there's this big battle, and you're on the planet's surface, and you can see your fleet up above in the atmosphere. And depending on how strong the fleet is, you may or may not see your ships like crashing down into orbit. And destroying the environment around you. I think that'd be a really cool, like, atmospheric way of showing choices and consequence.
Dudes, I'm not ever gonna lie. The more we talk about this, the more excitement I feel. I feel like I'm hyping myself up to disappointment.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I swear. Damn. Okay, I think those are the talking points on Mass Effect. We can head on over to. I guess we'll kind of keep it maybe Mass Effect like, and then we'll talk about maybe Starfield and the guys a different day. But let's talk about Casey Hudson Star Wars. This will be nice and short. Ushers, you're a big fan of Casey Hudson. You've played his games, Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, and you've also played Knights of the Old Republic. How did you feel seeing Casey step up on the stage? After the news that his previous studio, Humanoid Studios, was getting shut down, and now he has the funding, and not just the funding, but he has the IP, Star Wars, to go with it. What are your thoughts on that? What kind of game do you think he's going to make, and are you excited for the future of Casey Hudson's project?
Yeah, man, like I'm a huge Casey Hudson fan. Because he was instrumental in the Knights of the Old Republic as well as Mass Effect, up until Mass Effect 3. So I'm cautiously optimistic because outside Mass Effect and Knights of the Old Republic and all the other things that he was sort of like, not the lead at, we've not seen him do anything, post Mass Effect 3 that was like amazing or that was great. So he has a lot to prove. So I'm cautiously optimistic about his next project, but I think he understands the universe when it comes to Star Trek very well. He understands Knights of the Old Republic as a world that they sort of like put together very well. It'll just depend on whether or not he's got a good team to execute his vision, and I hope he does. I hope he picks a very solid team to do that. But if he does, then there's a lot for everyone to be excited about. That's a fan of deep RPGs.
Mm-hmm. Would you have preferred if it was a brand new IP, or are you actually happy it's Star Wars?
Star Wars is a little bit of a safer bet. And again, given that he hasn't produced anything since he left, Mass Effect and BioWare, I think this is the best that he could have done.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say he should have gone for a new IP. I think a new IP, unless he's got like the dream team behind him, would be hard to sell. This to me is a little bit more of a guaranteed from a marketing perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, same thing. Thoughts? How did you feel like when you saw like Casey Hudson, the legendary Casey Hudson, is back in game development and he's making Star Wars Fates, and you have some opinion about where Ushers that this was the safer bet, but probably the best bet. I mean, my take on this would be creating a brand new IP was always going to be tricky. People, investors will have less trust in funding you. However, if you tell them it's going to be Star Wars, well, now okay, that's a brand IP. Also, from a lore perspective, you already have the stories of Star Wars. You already have the history, and you have a fan base that's ready to just purchase this product, regardless if it's good or not. If you're telling a Star Wars story, so thoughts? Are you happy Casey Hudson is making this product, and do you think he should have maybe tried harder to create a brand new IP, or do you think the Star Wars is the better bet?
I think Star Wars is a good bet. There's a pretty good fan following with Knights of the Old Republic. I think that on its own is a good way to build up hype. But I have faith, like Casey's pretty good with establishing, world building. He's already using the lore from the Old Republic games and from Star Wars in general. I know there's some skeptics about it, partially because of the Mass Effect 3 endings and how those were kind of rushed, but a lot of that's due to EA, trying to rush the development of the game. So I think, at least from a general story perspective, I'm not too concerned as long as Disney doesn't try to shift any creative decisions, or at least too extreme. And I'm also, Disney projects, they're hit or miss. Sometimes they don't even release. So I don't know how far this game is out. I'm hoping it comes out, but it seems like it's an early announcement, so we'll have to see.
Okay, and I got a second question for you guys, and this is more gameplay related. Obviously Casey was involved in Mass Effect. Oh, sorry, I thought I ended the stream by accident. So my bad. Casey was obviously involved in Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. Ushers, will you be expecting similar gameplay to Mass Effect, or there's a lightsaber now, so are you hoping they lean more towards The Witcher or Jedi Survivor? What kind of gameplay elements would you like to see this game take on?
That's an interesting question, because Knights of the Old Republic was a somewhat turn-based role-playing game. So again, if Casey leaned the Baldur's Gate 3 direction, I don't think he would stand a lot to lose, man. I think a lot of people would. It's a Star Wars game that's just like Knights of the Old Republic, with turn-based gameplay, with some action elements into it. If he does that, I don't think he could miss. I think that's a surefire hit with that audience, and that audience is huge on the PC front. So I would go for that. I would lean more towards Knights of the Old Republic, less Mass Effect.
Okay, so turn-based. Oh, that's an interesting one. Do you think that's the right choice?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I would go for that. It changes the scope of the game. It changes how you approach the game.
So you mean because of its turn-based, it would actually take less time to make, and it could be cheaper? Is that what you're saying?
All those things could be applicable, versus it being a full-on action game, and you need to sort of focus more on set pieces, special effects, and all that type of stuff. I think it would make the game more expansive if they went for Baldur's Gate 3 type of approach.
Okay, that's a good shout. Andrew, thoughts? What kind of gameplay would you like to see from Star Wars Fate? Knights of the Republic kind of gameplay, Witcher kind of gameplay, Baldur's Gate kind of gameplay, Elden Ring kind of gameplay?
Yeah.
Fire away.
I'm kind of open-minded about it. I think if they want to play it safe, probably the Jedi Survivor route. I don't know if I'd be a huge fan of that. I like RPG mechanics in the gameplay. I'm sure they could, put new abilities and all of that and have that RPG side come through. Turn-based would be cool. Baldur's Gate did it right. And my only thing is, Star Wars is more mainstream. It's a movie franchise. So how many Star Wars fans are also RPG fans? I know they overlap, because there's certainly a lot of sci-fi fans that play RPGs, but just thinking from from a corporate perspective, I'm kind of wondering if they would decide, let's just make it an action RPG. We'll get more people to buy it. But like you said, it might cost more money and take more time. So they got to wager that too.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Casey said himself that it's gonna be a short game. Like it's gonna take 4 years to make. He doesn't have all time. He said. I can see where Osiris is coming from a turn-based perspective. I wouldn't really mind that as long as the core is good. It's a typical BioWare-esque kind of game. However, I really do enjoy the Star Wars Fallen Order Jedi Survivor gameplay elements of things. Well, I hate the fact that they're Souls-like because I get my ass kicked so much, and I hate those kind of games. So if you turn that down to a normal level, I think I can be happy with that. But apart from this in Star Wars Fate, there is another Star Wars game that was mentioned some time ago. Don't know if you guys remember Quantic Dreams, Star Wars Eclipse. And I'm not gonna lie, this was the Star Wars game that, at least from a cinematic point of view, it really caught my attention. And Quantic Dreams makes very good story-driven, choice-driven games. So I was excited for this, and this trailer completely blew my mind with the possibilities. Ushers, I'll go to you first. Just based on what we know of Quantic Dreams making a Star Wars game, Casey Hudson making a Star Wars games, what has you more excited?
Obviously, of course, Casey, because Mass Effect and Knights of the Old Republic. From a heavy narrative perspective, I would say that I would be more excited for Quantic Dream's vision. But the problem with Quantic Dream, it's either a hit or a miss. It's either something you like or something you don't like, because you don't get to customize a lot in their stories. Yes, you get to make decisions, but you don't sort of have a lot of room to sort of create your protagonist and get to affect the world in that way. You sort of make choices within the vacuum that you're given. Excuse me. So, of course, Casey Hudson, definitely, because Casey Hudson is behind what is this? I don't know what you call this, but I think he's the first guy to sort of execute storytelling that goes over multiple titles. Mm-hmm. So definitely any day, that sort of narrative storyteller to me has my attention more than someone like David Cage from Quantic Dream, whose stories are very much his perspective of how things sort of should be done or should work out. Yes, they give you choices within the moment, but it's not you're driving the narrative. You're making choices within their narrative.
Good point. I would agree. I think for me, I do trust Casey from multiple game 1, game 2, game 3 point of view. I think Star Wars Eclipse, Quantic Dreams, I love the way they have different branching storylines, and they have all these choices that they fuse within the game. So I am excited for them. I'm probably still more interested in Casey's just because he's the creator of Mass Effect, and I probably have more trust there. But overall, one thing about Quantic Dreams is this trailer, Star Wars Eclipse, is that this trailer goes so freaking hard. It's so good, and it makes me wonder how much did you spend on this, and you don't even have nothing to show for it. It's just a classic example of just spending cash or marketing power on something you probably shouldn't have. But anyways, that's a separate point. Andrew, thoughts? Are you more excited for the idea of Quantic Dreams making a Star Wars RPG game, or Casey Hudson making an RPG game?
I would say definitely Casey Hudson for the RPG. I have more faith in Casey. His track record's, pretty well received with KOTOR and Mass Effect. So, Quantic Dream's really cool. I like Detroit Become Human with all the branching choices. I know they can be hit or miss, but what I think will kind of make or break this game from a lore perspective, this High Republic timeline was kind of a time of peace. So are they going to make it non-canon? Are these choices going to get really wacky where, the Sith come out of hiding because they're not supposed to be in the game? If the Sith come out of hiding and they go and they can raid the temple and, like even Yoda's not safe, like that would be cool. Make it non-canon, have the narrative just go completely in a different direction, make it unpredictable. And then I think it would be interesting. But if they confine themselves to everything's peaceful, kind of like Synthesis in Mass Effect, I know there's conflict even in the cinematic here, but how interesting will it get if there's no Sith? You know what I mean?
No. I agree. Seems we're also in agreement that Casey Hudson's Casey Hudson's Star Wars is something that we're all looking forward to the most. I won't really go into the gameplay side of things for Star Wars Eclipse because we don't really know what they're gonna do. They don't really have that much experience doing that much heavy gameplay stuff. It's very more choice focused. But I think that's more or less it. We were supposed to touch on Halo today. We're supposed to touch on Osiris Reborn. We're supposed to touch on Exodus, and also Starfield 2.0, and along with Star Citizen, another big game that's supposed to be dropping this year. Listen, I don't know
really?
if you. Yeah, I think. Wait, Ushers, was it 2026? So 2026 was supposed to drop in this year, I believe.
It was dropping 2012, 2013, 2016, 2015, 2020, 2021, 2020. Every year it's supposed to drop and it never drops. The last date that I remember was end 2025. So yeah.
I think we're gonna get Squadron 42 before Star Citizen. I feel like Star Citizen is like 2030 or something.
And I think with Squadron 42, I think the other reason there might be under pressure to make money. Like, at some point you're gonna have to release something that's gonna bring in income for you to help out with, Star Citizen itself. But yeah, we could talk about Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, or we could put that to next week. I don't know. Are you guys busy? Actually, I'm actually kind of tired, so let's do next week. Ushers, are you willing to be here next week to talk about more sci-fi games and
Andrew always?
Well?
Yep, should be good for next week. I'll let you know though if anything changes.
All right, cool. Sounds great to me.
Sorry, Ty, before we go, I just want to just drop this. So Squadron 42 was supposed to drop late 2025, so I'm correct.
Yeah. The thing about Squadron that is quite the thing about Squadron that makes it quite sad is that they could drop it. Like, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. Like, they really could drop it, and then that's gonna attract people to Star Citizen because people like Squadron 42. They're gonna want to check out Star Citizen themselves, so you're gonna get more payment. I think this is just a classic example of this guy being so anal about everything. And he needs somebody above him. Like, he's the kind of person that you shouldn't be giving that much money to. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like he's somebody who you need to say, listen, it's coming out this time at this date, so you need to prioritize what you think is the most important thing to do. And once you do that, he's gonna actually do it. But unfortunately, he has no boss, it seems, so he just does whatever the hell he wants, and this game gets delayed and delayed and delayed. And I think a lot of people are too bought in right now for them to leave. But yeah, listen, that's a discussion for next week, I suppose. Rachie, thank you for coming through. Rachie's one of Rachie's points is comments is Gango Dragon is cut from their publishers, so no more money. Xbox needs to bring them for Game Pass. I would agree. I just don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze. 50 million, and then you have to pay off NetEase as well. That might be another 50 million, 40 million. Who knows? I don't know if it's worth it though. Richie says, remember Detroit Become Human's good ending is Welcome to Canada. Yes, I do. And I think that's it. Richie says he likes all Quantic Dreams games. Me too. They're great. Ushers and Andrew, thank you for coming through on this short podcast, 1 hour 20 minutes. It's not too bad, not too long. We'll try to keep everything around this time. But listen, appreciate you guys coming through. And next week we'll be here again talking more sci-fi games. And I might even look a bit beyond, because I know Hello Games is doing a new sci-fi kind of game as well. So I'll send you guys some links on that, and you can share your thoughts. But anyways, peace. Oh, wait, no. Sorry. Andrew, please tell us, what are you up to, and where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Andrew S05, and Instagram should be the same, Andrew S05. Yeah, and I'm just working on the next episode in my fan series for Star Wars Republic Commando. If you want to check it out, it's all there. I also got a playlist with all the episodes in order. So yeah, pretty much it.
Cool. And Osh the Wiz, tell us, where can we find you, and what are you up to these days?
Across all social media, it's Oz the Wiz. That's X, that is YouTube. And yeah, so we're gonna be doing a little bit of rebranding after our 20th episode. And we are going to be increasing our quota of 1 show a week to 2 shows a week, but we'll sort of like announce that when we get to that. So yeah, YouTube here with Hugh, whenever you can join Tai, which is almost every week, Loke, and Kenwell.
Sounds good. Listen, guys, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Appreciate you.
Cheers.
See ya.